Setting powder is meant to lock everything in place, keep your foundation on all day. It's definitely not meant to enhance your creases, exaggerate your texture, and just look super powdery all day. Unfortunately, it's very easy for it to look like that. So today I'm going to be showing you the setting powder mistakes that end up making you look older, and also how to apply it the correct way. So we're going to be doing the wrong side on one side and then the correct side on this side. I'm also going to go through maybe a couple of like quick fixes for you later on in the video. So if you're new here, I'm Nina. I'm a celebrity and professional makeup artist, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm also a beauty educator. I make everything very relatable and very just real life for you guys, you know? It's not just about what works in the studio, it's about what works out there in the real world. So let's get into it. Let's talk about why setting powder can end up aging you. I know that some people get really scared of powder and then they end up like thinking it's kind of like the enemy. It's really not. Too much powder can end up making you look really dull and tired and exaggerate all your fine lines and texture. The wrong type of powder and the wrong placement can also end up doing those things. And even if you weren't to do all of that at the same time, even if you were to just use the wrong powder or just apply it in the wrong place or just use the wrong texture, that can end up doing it too. So it's one of those things which I think is pretty easy to end up getting wrong, which is why I feel like so many people are afraid of powder. A lot of it has to do with maybe putting it on and using the wrong technique to begin with, which ends up scaring you and then you don't even want to touch it. I get it, I fully get it, but I'm here to really show you the right way of doing it and how you don't need to be afraid of powder, and it can actually work for you rather than against you. The goal with powder is not to mattify the entire face and for everything to look flat. The goal is to control shine if that's your issue, or keep your makeup on as long as possible through the day, but still having that skin-like finish to your skin. I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that bell button so that you don't miss any of my future videos. It literally takes you a few seconds, not even that, and it doesn't cost you a thing, but it actually helps my channel so much, so I'd really appreciate it. First thing I want to do is just add some primer. Now, a mistake that people make, and even though this is not a setting powder mistake, it does affect the setting powder, is not putting primer on, because that's really going to separate your skincare from your makeup. So first thing I'm going to do is put primer on the correct side. I'm just using my Milk Hydro Grip, and I'm going to put that one here, and I'm not putting it on the other side, which is really going to stress me out because I always have something there in between. But for you guys, I'm going to keep it real. I'm gonna soldier through this. Now we're gonna go into using our foundation. So I've got my, let's use this one, my MAC Studio Radiance foundation. This is NC30. Let's get my brush and get this all over. Just get a thin layer. There's a couple of things you need to do with your setting powder, which will actually end up helping you. So if you feel that doesn't matter what you do, every time you try like loose setting powder in the way that maybe you see people do it, like myself, and you feel like it always ends up looking like cakey, it ends up making you look older and aged, then there are certain things that you could do which is not changing your setting powder or the placement, but doing things before and after that could really help with stopping it to look kind of aged. Okay, foundation is on. Let's add a bit of concealer. I'm actually going to use my Dior Forever Skin Correct today in 3N. I seem to have gotten quite lighter, so I'm not using the warmer shade at the moment. And we're doing everything the same, other than obviously the fact that we've got primer on one side and not the other. The reason being is because I want you to see that the foundation will look the same on both sides. But the powder can make the biggest difference. Okay, so let's get our beauty blender. Get this blended in. Okay, so base is on. Now I do want to just add very quickly a little bit of blush because I want this to look realistic as possible, like just real. By now you would have probably put your cream blush on. Let's get some on. Like some of you might have put it on top, but I think most people use cream blushes and just are moving more towards cream products. So we've got some blush on, as you can see, really nice and vibrant, and bronzer I usually would apply at the end anyway. Okay, you know I mentioned that there's maybe a couple of things that you can do that are really gonna help the powder to kind of work well for you. Well, this is one of them. Once you've applied your foundation, apply a setting spray. This is really gonna stop the powder from aging you so much. Obviously, all of the other things I'm gonna show you, like the technique, the placement, how much you're applying, is all gonna be they're important factors. This is something that's really going to help you. If you feel that you're just at your wit's end, then use this. Use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray and apply it over your foundation. Now I'm just going to apply it on one side. There you go. That was hard trying to do it on one side. You want to let that dry. I'm just going to very quickly dry this so we're not sitting here for ages. But you want to let that dry. I don't know, you can get a fan like this, it's in my description, or you can just start scrolling if you've got the time, whatever you want to do. There you go. Okay, now the biggest mistake that people make is actually using the wrong powder. Firstly, you want to use something which is quite fine milled, especially if you feel that powder ages you very quickly. Now I would personally recommend the Laura Mercier translucent powder in Ultra Blur, because it's ultra, like it's fine milled, but it's also like a blurring powder, so it's going to help with any kind of like fine lines and texture. Or you could use the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Soft Blur Setting Powder and get the right colour that you need. For example, for my skin tone, I use 3 Neutral Peach. Now, there is another powder which I swear by, and I absolutely love it. It is the Huda Beauty Easy Bake. I just want to add here that for some people this may be heavy. It works really well for me, but then again, I am used to applying makeup in a certain way, and I, you know, wear a lot of makeup on a regular basis because of what I do, my job, especially all this filming and everything, and going to events and all that. You know, sometimes I need my makeup to last all day, and that is a really good setting powder for me. I don't bake or anything, so I'm going to go through that shortly anyway, but it may be heavy if you feel that your skin is drier and thinner. So I wouldn't recommend that powder to the average person who deals or struggles with powders looking cakey or aging them. I wouldn't recommend that one because it isn't the most finely milled powder, but it works for me. I want you to just remember that you don't have to use what you see me using. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right? What I'm going to do is use 2 different powders here, right? Because I want you to understand how it can make a difference. So on the mistake side, I'm going to use the Huda Beauty Easy Bake. That's not saying that it's a wrong powder, because I'm obviously going to be showing you the technique and how other things can contribute to it being wrong, but I'm just saying that some people this might be too heavy for a lot of people. And then on the other side, the correct side, I'm going to use my Laura Mercier translucent ultra blur powder. So the first mistake was maybe using the wrong type of powder for your face. The second mistake is that you are overloading your tool, right? So you could be using a brush or a puff. Now I use a puff on myself and I love it. If you feel that that ages you, you need to use a brush, which is what I'm going to show you on the correct side. Using a puff does end up adding more powder to the face, and I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about. On the mistake side, we are going to go straight into this powder. It's all on the puff there. I'm not even getting rid of any excess, which I normally would do when I use this powder. I would take off the excess and I wouldn't apply that much powder to it. I'm going to go straight on. There's a little hair there, I can see it. That's going to irritate me. I'm going to go straight on and apply this. This, I can guarantee you've never seen me apply powder like this on my videos. Okay, let's go. This is just, honestly, stressing me out even just putting this on. Right, we've got it everywhere, which is wrong for a start. There's no strategy when it comes to the placement. So that is another thing that's really wrong about that. The other thing is we obviously overpacked the tool that we're using, right? Even if you're using a brush, you can end up putting too much powder on. There's too much. Now, the other mistake we're going to make is baking. we're gonna let this marinate. My worst nightmare, because I never bake, I hate baking. I think it is the one thing that makes you look the oldest the fastest. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna leave it there and let that bake. Okay, another mistake we made is we didn't take out all the creases before we actually started setting with powder. What that does is probably adds another 5 years on. I can tell you that right now, because what you're doing is you're allowing all the product to sit in the creases. Then when you actually set it like this, you're actually setting creases. Don't do that, because that's going to make you look older immediately. What we want to do is get rid of those lines, so we're almost erasing any of the lines that are really obvious because the product has settled in. Now we're also going to be very strategic. We know that we've got an eyelid here which is blinking and making all sorts of expressions, right? We're going to get rid of the product that's sitting in that eyelid. Let's just make sure there's no product sitting in that line. We're going to get our Real Techniques brush, dip into the powder, and then I'm going to go into the lid, keep pushing it into the brush so there's not a lot, and then we're just going to press the lid first. Now that we've got that out of the way, that is very clever strategy, because what we've done is that one little area that creates the most creases the quickest because of the eyelid moving up and down, we've got it out of the way. It's nice and set. You don't need to worry about it now. It's not going to stress you out. And trust me, I know it sounds really minor, but it does make a huge difference. Now we can worry about the rest of the face. So like I did a minute ago, let's just make sure there's no creases in the under eye or the smile line. And then we're going to get the powder again. Get a little bit, I picked it up on the brush there. Now, we're going to press. You can go back into the powder if you feel that you need to. There you go. Right, so we've pressed that in nicely. Now I've got a little bit texture here, so I like to actually set that area because it actually blurs out the texture there. All of this area here, I don't really like to apply a lot of powder, but let me show you what I do. With this small brush, and I would usually use a puff by the way and the other powder, but I apply it very strategically in the same places that I'm applying it now, but with a puff. But I want to show you with a brush because I know a lot of you do use a brush. So if you use a puff like me, you've seen me in a million of my videos probably apply it in the exact same places I'm applying it now, but just with a puff. Okay, now the other place I like to do this is here. Now, what I do next is I get a bigger brush, so I get this Hourglass Veil brush, and I get a little bit of powder just on the tip of this brush there, and then I get into the lid, keep pushing it into the brush, and then I just very lightly press all over my face, and that has set my entire face, and I'm done. I've been very strategic with it. The areas that I feel that I tend to kind of like crease quickly, I use a more precise brush. I use the Real Techniques setting brush because it gives me precision. I can set in particular areas that I know are a bit of a hassle for me generally because of the creasing, and it's the one area I don't want creasing through the day. So those areas are done with that smaller brush. It's very precise. With the bigger brush, it's on a larger surface area where I want to set it, but I also don't want it to look powdery or kind of age me. So it's a very light dusting of powder. I'm never dragging, I'm always pressing. Now let's move over to this other side. We're going to see a big difference in how this looks. I honestly cannot stand baking. I don't know why people do it. I think it's this whole thing of like, it's setting your makeup and it lasts all day, but what people forget to mention, especially when you're in your 40s, is it also makes you look a lot older. The problem with applying powder everywhere here, which I know not everyone does, but I just want to explain to you like what the mistake there is that in itself is going to make the entire face look flat, which we don't want. We want definition there. We want some kind of structure there. And you're going to end up having to work even harder after using stuff like a powder contour or powder bronzer to bring back dimension to the face, because you've just basically erased all of the dimension there. So that's the struggle. You're going to have to then apply more powder product, which in turn is also going to make you look older. It's really about powdering only where you need it and very lightly using a brush. You can be very light-handed with this. I feel like people don't realize that a loose setting powder is actually very strong in the sense that it can do a lot for you with a very little amount of product. So don't feel that you have to pack it on, otherwise it's not going to do anything. I guess it's easy for people to think because, you know, you put a little brush in it and you move it around, it just kind of like disperses into the air and you're like, what is that going to do? I need a whole load. I need to be able to see it. You don't need that because it's actually a very powerful product, I think, which isn't so obvious because you want to see it, but then at the same time it kind of dissolves. Do you know what I mean? It just goes into thin air. So you don't really need to see it on your face to know that it's working. Like, this is going to keep my makeup on all day and it's still going to look skin-like, and it's still going to ensure that my under eye and the smile lines is going to stay put without any creasing and not look heavy or aged. Okay, now let's do this. What we're going to do is, we've let this bake, we're now going to dust it off. So this is where people generally get a brush, and I've seen this happen a lot where they don't even use a right size brush. They just start dusting it off. So we're just gonna like go like this. Okay, already I'm not even looking, oh, I've got a random hair there. I'm not even looking that close in the mirror, but I will now. I can see where this is clung to certain kind of like dry patches. It definitely looks more powdery on this side. Like, if I look at this side, I can still see a skin-like finish here and that slight kind of like nice radiance coming through. Here, everything is flat. I can actually see the texture here more. Can you see this? Can we zoom in there so that we can really see this texture there? I can see that, and it's very flat, and I actually look much older on this side, whereas this side I feel like looks a lot more kind of like just lifted and a bit more kind of like natural looking. There you go. Baking does not do you any favors. But can I just also add something? This is something that you can do, which is also going to help right at the end. If you feel like, okay, I still feel like this is maybe a little bit, like, I'm not saying this is powdery because I think this is perfect, but for you, if you've put it on in exactly the same way as me and you still feel like it's looking a little bit powdery, it could be that your skin type is different to mine, right? So it's a little bit drier than mine. Doesn't mean that if you do it in exactly the same way that I did it on the correct side, that it's going to look exactly the same way, because it all depends on everyone's skin type, how quickly your natural oils come out, what your natural skin type is like before you've even applied makeup. So for example, is it generally drier than mine? It's going to look drier then at the end. So in which case, there are little things that you can do to help along the way. Now, use the setting spray again and just spray on top of the powder and let that dry down. That is going to melt the powder into the skin. It's going to be a game changer for you. So it could be that you like also using maybe the Huda Beauty Easy Bake, like I like using it. You do it, you apply it, and then you do this spray and you're like, finally, this was the missing piece of the puzzle. Like, now I can wear the powder that I like because it keeps my makeup on all day, and I can also make sure it doesn't look powdery and it does look skin-like. So it could be that this very last step that I did is what you need to be able to correct that whole issue with your setting powder. But if that isn't, and it still looks heavy and cakey to you, I would suggest going through the whole routine like I did and making sure you do everything in the right way. This, as you can see, is very flat, very, very powdery. This looks like skin on this side. It's much more kind of like just skin-like. It doesn't look scary. It doesn't look so matte and flat. If you like videos like this, please do head on over to thebeautybreakfastclub.com. It's an online community and platform. It's a magazine, which is all about beauty. Think Grazia, think Allure, think all of those types of publications. That's what you're going to get when you head on over to thebeautybreakfastclub.com. It's all been created by me. I write everything. I've designed the whole thing. Everything has been done. I've not outsourced this at all. This is a real passion project of mine, and I love what we've created there. It's been going for around 2 years. We have over 6,000 subscribers there, and there are 2 versions for you. One is free. That gives you access to some of the site, and you get the odd occasional newsletter sent to your inbox, or you can go directly to thebeautybreakfastclub.com, or you can go for the paid version. Now, that costs the same as getting yourself 1 coffee every month, but you get way more than a coffee. You've unlocked the entire site, so you have access to every single newsletter. And by the way, I know a lot of creators out there who start things like this and then never finish it, or they get excited and they do it and then, you know, you don't see a post from them for like 2 months. Can I just say, for the last 2 years, I have released a newsletter every other day. So post, Miss a day, post, miss a day, post. I've been doing that nonstop. I'm very committed to this, and you will always receive fresh, new beauty news and information and educational content from me on here. So head on over there, because the paid version, like I said, unlocks the full site, but it also does allow you to join the group chat. And that is honestly so much fun. I've got to meet so many of you guys and connect with you and really get to know you. And it's been so nice hearing from you and answering your questions. So if you have questions that you want me to answer directly, then head on over and subscribe to the paid version and join the group chat, because everyone helps each other out and everyone is genuinely really nice. So would love to see you there. But let's move on. I just want to add that some people with their skin through the day, they might not really produce much oil. So they'll feel that it stays dry looking throughout the day. In which case I would recommend taking a hydrating mist with you, or setting spray like this one, preferably something hydrating. Honestly, like, I feel like this is hydrating, and you can, if the drier your skin, I feel like you can really focus on using an actual hydrating spray. You know, something like maybe the Kosas Cloud Set is really good for someone with dry skin, or something which is specifically for dry skin, like very hydrating. Use something like that. That should be enough to be able to just kind of like calm your skin down and just add that skin-like look. But you can also get your beauty blender, spray it, and just press into the face to really push that hydration into the skin. Because what you're doing then is you're really forcing that powder to just kind of like break down a little bit, just the right amount, so it all looks skin-like. Can you see how we sprayed this and we can still see this looks skin-like? Like, look at this. It's not flat. You can see the light reflecting off of my cheekbone there. Here, so flat, so dull. Texture is enhanced here. If you look close up, it actually looks, I feel like my dark circles are more obvious here as well. It just doesn't look good. Always fix your makeup rather than piling on more makeup. So those are my setting mistakes to avoid so that you don't look older, and also the correct way to do it. I hope this has really helped you. I really wanted to just focus on the base so that you guys know how to avoid aging yourselves. It's not about skipping powder altogether. It's about using it strategically and in the right place, and picking the right powder for yourself, and also knowing what little tricks that you can do to help soften everything up and correct any mistakes that you've unknowingly made. I really do hope you've enjoyed this today. Don't forget, all the products are listed in my description, and I'm excited about the next video, so I'll see you then.